Hi, my name is Isabella. Today, I will be recording my final video response essay, and so my assignment is to reflect on which lessons and what theories that have stuck with me the most, and then just also explain as to why it stood out and how it shaped my perspective on crime and also offenders. So the topic that stood out to me the most would have to be the social learning theory. So, the social learning theory that I have the definition pulled up is that it's the idea that individuals learn behaviors and attitudes and values by observing and imitating others in a social context. This was developed by Albert Bandura. So, it essentially emphasizes the fact that learning is primarily done through observation and also just actual practice put into those observations. So, if someone were to observe a specific behavior being done, the person that is the one that's learning, they would see these things and then take note of them and then also take it into their own hands to execute these actions. So just to kind of state as to why this one specifically had the most impact on me, I would say that this one had the most impact because of the fact that the social learning theory is so critical to just understanding as to why people commit crimes. So if you were to look, one of the most common examples that I've used in a bunch of previous videos that I've made and also just like in the actual lectures that have been held within this course, I would say that the social learning theory does provide a very good understanding as to why some of these criminals do these things, and it all kind of ties back to the communities that they were brought up with. And so, if we were to look at a low income neighborhood, or if we were to look at in comparison to one another, is what I'm going to use this example as. If you were to look at people that come from a low income neighborhood comparison to a high income neighborhood, the people in the low income neighborhoods have people that believe that in order to get what they need for themselves, in order to have a sustainable life for the rest of their lives, they need to get these things in ways that are not traditional, which would be a job and education. Rather, they feel like they have to get it in that very moment, which would be considered stealing. And then this is just like the very local, easy to get crimes, which would be stealing from companies, robbing other individuals of their property, just in order to make sure that they are able to survive, as it's like the one man against everyone else type of mentality. So they believe that they need to do what they need to do for themselves, and everyone else is on their own. So also why it stood out to me as well. So the social learning theory to me as to why it stood out, I believe that childhood is very essential to the development of an individual, and whenever it comes to punishments in the criminal justice process, I believe that all criminals should really have an opportunity for their childhoods and their upbringings to really be looked at in order to understand whether or not these people are receiving the crimes that are very appropriate to them in terms of like the crimes that they've committed and also just the type of person that they are. At the end of the day, all people are human, so it's essential that we understand what type of people these are and whether we are able to judge whether or not this was in or out of character for this person. And it just really changed my perspective on crime because it allowed me to really understand as to why people do the things that they do and really look at like not just like what they did but why they did it. I really believe that it's essential that all people in the criminal justice field need to understand that people do things for everyone's more likely self-motivated. So everyone has their needs that they need to do and everyone is brought up differently. So those ways that people attain these things all come back to how they were brought up, and it all comes back to their like parental figures, their authority figures. All of these things are very essential to the upbringing of an individual, which is why I believe that the social learning theory is a very important theory in the criminal justice thing. So, thank you so much for listening.